Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Manhattan Community Board 3 Health, the monthly Health, Seniors, Human Services, Youth Education, and Human Rights Committee meeting. Today we have, on today's agenda, we have one of our main items will be a presentation from the Center for Sustainable Development at Columbia University. It's about an educational proposal that they have. Before we start the meeting, though, I'll hand it over to Larissa, who will give an introduction to how this meeting is being run.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the meeting. As May said, this is Health and Human Services Committee for CB3. The meeting is being recorded. If you are not a member of the committee, if you could kindly put your name and affiliation, if applicable, into the chat room. This is our way of keeping attendance. We will be going over some items today during the meeting. After the presentation, May will be taking questions from the board members first, and afterwards she will open it up for public questions if there is time. If there are any questions or if you're having any difficulty connecting, you can put information in the chat and I can try to help you.
Okay, thank you, Larissa. Okay, so before we start the main part of the meeting, I did want to have a little bit of a public session to see if anyone has any community announcements about things our organization is doing. I know that Eric has something.
Yes, thank you, May. And I'll take the committee's 2 minutes. I won't take much time. Just a brief update on Vision Urbana's food pantry, since we haven't given a report. Just a couple of updates for the end of the year. So I prepared a little statement here, so I'm just gonna read off it. Forgive me, guys. So first one is regarding our seniors. Just wanted to let the committee know that Vision Urbana signed up to join a program, Food Bank for New York City, called the Srvcs Nutrition Program, funded by the state for 1 year to serve 8,000 seniors across the 5 boroughs in 2020, with about 20-pound boxes of groceries on a monthly basis. This began in December 2019. Between December to March, Vision Urbana provided monthly distribution to a little more than 200 seniors. But during COVID-19, Vision Urbana scaled up to provide more than 1,700 unduplicated seniors in the Lower East Side, with more than 10,200 home deliveries. This during a time when almost 40% of all pantries were either closed citywide. As we speak, Vision Urbana is responsible for serving more than 20% of the total number of seniors registered in this citywide program. Vision Urbana will continue the program for the next 2 months, 2 Saturdays of the month, November 7th, November 21st, December 5th, and December 19th. Right. Food Bank NYC does not know if this program will be funded again by the state, but if it does, Vision Urbana will look to continue this program for the next coming year. Although this next statistic is a modest number, the 1,700 unduplicated seniors amount to around 5% of the total number of seniors living in Community Board 3. Last thing, announcement is that Vision Urbana is working with CEC1, Lila Mejia, my cousin as well, since October to distribute food to families in District 1 schools. Our first distribution was at the University Middle School, the former Junior High School 56. On Saturday, October 24th, for more than 100 families received pantry. Our next event will be Saturday, November 14th at Manhattan Charter School to serve over 300 families. And lastly, Vision Urbana is invested in serving the senior and youth of the Lower East Side with food security, and will continue to provide updates to the committee for additional support and advocacy when needed. So thank you guys for the time.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, Eric, I had just a question about the food in the schools. You know how DOE says that, and Alicia probably knows about that too, you know, that they were giving out like food to everybody, right? And then when school opened, they sort of moved those places. So you so if you're not connected to the school, then you have to go somewhere else. So is this part of that, or is this just an addition to that program that you're doing?
Right. In addition, I think Vision Urbana although we've been attempting to be more integrated in how the city rolls out its food security initiatives citywide. So with the city at least, so we've taken it upon ourselves to leverage our existing relationships with food banks across the city and engage in new partnerships, like with City Harvest, it's our recent partnership. That took way too long, by the way, to get a partnership out of them. We've been trying to get one since 2018, but apparently it takes a pandemic before they pay attention. But don't get me started. But to answer your question, it's a separate thing from what the DOE is doing. So we're trying to meet needs and where the gaps are as much as we can.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Eric or any new announcements about community programs? Okay, seeing none. Okay, we will start the meeting. So the first thing we will do is to approve the minutes. The minutes were sent out. Does anyone have any changes to it? If not, if they're okay as you got them, then we will consider them to be approved. Well, Thomas has his thumbs up, and and Larissa has 2, and I.
Up, Paul.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
All right. So, and everyone else seems okay. So it seems to be okay with everyone. So the minutes have been approved. Okay. So the next thing that we will do is that Thomas will take the roll call.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to start our roll call. Mei Lee is obviously present. Larissa?
Present.
David Crane?
Present.
Okay. Eric is present. Shirley? Tennessee? Deborah Jeffrey Glass?
Present. I don't know if you heard that I put my thumbs up when you were asking if there were any questions or whatever, and I was like, nope, yay, thumbs up. I don't know, maybe my mic wasn't working, but
Okay,
No,
and I just recorded my vote. I'm here.
thank you. Tatiana?
yes.
Paul?
Present.
Heidi Schmidt? Heidi?
Heidi was here.
She's here. She's here. She signed in, but she's muted. Oh, there she goes.
Had trouble muting, sorry.
Okay,
No
yeah.
problem. Ricky Wong?
Yeah.
Here.
And Carmen Perez?
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we will start with our main portion of the meeting. We have several guests here today from the Columbia University Center for Sustainable Development, who's going to present to us about this educational proposal they have. Can you all introduce yourselves to us? You can start your presentation, and also Larissa can assist you with any slideshows if you need it.
Great.
Or are you going to show it yourself? Do you want us to show it? Because I think we have to do something if you want to show if you want to share your screen. Do you need to share your screen or not?
Yes, that would be great. Unless I think Larissa was saying something.
Well, Larissa started.
Oh, great. Oh, thank you so much. Perfect. Hello, my name is.
Hi, sorry about that. I was muted.
No. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, and especially to Susan and May for really making this happen and for this opportunity for us to share our education proposal idea. My name is Heian Shin. I'm the education advisor of the Center for Sustainable Development's education team. I'm here with Dr. Radhika Yengar, who's the director of education of our center, and Tara Stafford Okanze, who's the senior education technology specialist, and they'll be speaking later on in the presentation as well. So thank you so much. We were hoping that while we want to share our proposal idea that there would be some time at the end for really to get feedback from you and to see if you have any questions. So we'll do it in that order. So a little bit about us. We are housed within the Earth Institute of Columbia University, which conducts and blends research and in physical and social sciences. We have over 800 scientists and staff who conduct research. A big majority of them conduct kind of the hard sciences and the earth sciences. Our center, we focus more on the social sciences, including education, health, economic development, and the environment. And all of the focus in the Institute is on sustainable futures. So our center is led by the economics professor, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, who has also served as a special advisor to the UN Secretary Generals. And I mentioned that to say most of the work we do, we align it to the Global Sustainable Development Goals. And specifically for education, we have worked internationally to provide international educational services, both in research and policy advising and some implementation as well, targeting low resource settings and hard to reach communities. But with COVID-19, we have really seen how educational needs are everywhere, not just in the countries where we worked previously. So we are being more inclusive in that we are exploring partnerships and conducting research and work locally and within the US as well. Next slide, please. So our reason for reaching out today is really to see if a collaboration on community-based learning proposal, which is meant to address challenges during COVID, especially on learning and the learning communities, is something of interest and something that we could partner with community boards. And given the current circumstances, you know, with education, our home, our work, all the spaces kind of merging together, we're exploring ways to better connect the learning community, even outside of the physical and virtual classrooms. So as with most of our center's education work, we really attempt to design our programs with community as the focal point and as the main base. So we wanted to reach out to Manhattan community boards to understand if this idea is something that would be fitting and aligned to Manhattan communities through the community boards. The next slide, please, on the needs. I think it's slide, yes, the next slide. Thank you. So you are probably all aware of the need, the dire need currently, but what we're really trying to address is the strain that COVID has put on many learners and the broader learning community, the families, the educators, the teachers. And as you know, the New York City, 1.1 million students now doing remote learning and the type of strain that it has had on the families. And also the hardest hit areas in terms of COVID cases, but also kind of the projections on children and youth trauma and behavioral wellness is that includes Upper Manhattan and New York City adjacent North New Jersey counties. So we know that these are not just figure, but we know that there is a real need for education relief and different diversified programs. So from the pilot that we have done and from the educational contents that we have reviewed during these months, we have not really come across too many linkages of the current pandemic to environmental degradation and climate change, learning contents that are really comprehensive. So that is something that we are trying to do. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So with that as the backdrop, our aim is to support learning quality, especially during COVID, to address the learning loss and the digital fatigue with curriculum aligned home activities. And we're aiming for these to be available, some components of it to be available online, and for there to be physical activity kits, because we recognize that everything is going digital and sometimes it's actually good to take a break away from that. So it's kind of a blended model, and Tara will share a little bit on the educational contents a little bit in a few slides. So we thought a great place to start would be with STEAM skills. As most of you probably already know, that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math skills. That is kind of all encompassing, but also that is a national education priority that's being really pushed in all curriculums. So we thought that would be a great place to start. But really trying to embed climate change education and social emotional learning, because we know the type of burden that COVID has had on learners and parents as well, and teachers too, so really everyone. Next slide, please. So our target beneficiaries, as I mentioned before, we're really trying to start from community as our place to understand what the needs are, what is possible, what is going to be most useful. We have had some discussions with some school districts and some school district leaders, as well as teachers in both Manhattan as well as New Jersey, Milburn, particularly Milburn Township. We're targeting lower grades first, but the full spectrum would be grades K through 12. And learners with limited access to internet would be prioritized. Even within the city of New York, 16% of households actually don't have internet. And through a summer pilot that we did with Upper Manhattan youth, even within the group of about 15 youth, there were numerous students without access to internet. So we would prioritize access in providing some resources for online access through that, but also, again, as I mentioned before, merging online contents and offline contents. So with that, we'll just give you a quick overview on the education contents, and Tara will go over these slides. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm Tara on the team with Dr. Radhika and Han. Thanks again for having us. So just to go into a bit more detail, kind of highlight some examples of what we're thinking with the content. The concept, as Han outlined, we're thinking both long-term as well as immediate term, thinking long-term as we're addressing the challenges we're facing right now with COVID and blended remote learning. We also want to be building sort of an online repository that can be useful over the long term to help educators integrate this, education for climate action, education for sustainable development into the core curriculum across subjects, focusing on STEAM as well as the social emotional learning. So that kind of online repository would be something we would be developing, and then aligning to that, we would be developing these education kits that would help address this digital fatigue and help create these opportunities for more hands-on, action-oriented learning that gets the learners really thinking about how they can be part of the solution to some of these issues, COVID-19, climate change, et cetera. So while we are thinking about how this can be useful for teachers in a formal education context, we're also thinking about, working with community partners. We want these kits to be flexible. Teachers can use them to supplement and integrate into what they're already teaching in terms of aligning to education standards, but also be able to have them stand on their own. So if families are able to use them on the weekends or after school to supplement what's happening in school, that's also something that we want to make this used in that way as well. So for example, we heard earlier about the food distribution going on. These kits could go out as part of that, through community partnerships. So that's something we're interested in potentially. And another thing that we think is unique about this is, of course, there are a lot of learning resources that are already out there that can be found online that are tackling these subjects of climate change, but they're not always linked to the curriculum. So how can educators think about how to use these materials in ways that kind of take some of the planning work off their shoulders? So if they know that they're covering this subject, the scope and sequence is covering this month, they can say, okay, here's a lesson that will address links between COVID-19 and biodiversity loss, et cetera, that I can use and kind of plug in this way to the learning standards that they need to cover. So as Han mentioned, we're thinking about STEAM. So, in this slide, we can kind of see in terms of the science, technology, engineering, math, learning about climate science, learning about energy efficiency, but not just theoretical, but providing tips and worksheets to think about how we can save energy at home, soil health and the links between things like doing kitchen composting and what that can do to help capture carbon and help address climate change, linking these kind of at-home everyday activities we can do to solving big problems. And then linking that also to arts and social studies, instead of just learning about the branches of government, learning about, what can I actually do? What kind of action plans can I make with my peers to push for solutions to these challenges, and kind of bringing that action civics component into social studies learning. Things like, addressing environmental justice issues, for example, COVID-19 is exacerbated for communities who live in polluted areas. So we can address science standards by learning about pollution, and we can learn about math data analysis by looking at asthma rates in communities that live closer to polluting power plants, for example, and kind of explore those links across subjects. And then with the social emotional learning component, an example might be, we mentioned the kitchen composting idea. And where can students and families find local compost drop-off locations around New York City? I know a lot of the official ones are not operational right now, but there's still some community gardens and things like this around that are collecting things like that. And taking that opportunity when you're outside to practice some mindfulness activities and bring in some of that social emotional learning and well-being to support all the challenges and emotional challenges that young people and their families are facing right now. So yeah, that's just a little bit. Maybe if you go to the next slide, it kind of just walks through sort of an example of how we would think about organizing the online component and linking the kids to that. So there's the state learning standards, and then how that's translated into the scope and sequence that educators follow, and then how our online content can be curated. For example, if there's a standard on conservation of energy and energy transfer, which is something students are learning about in third grade, that's the example this is pulled from. Our online content could include videos about clean energy, tips for saving energy at home, tools for tracking, the little actions you're taking at home to save energy. And then the hands-on activity components, there's very inexpensive kits out there to make mini wind turbines and do little experiments to see what's more effective. Little solar cars that can be raced to study, different factors that make solar power more effective. Or even simpler activities for very young children, construction paper, make a model sustainable town, things like this. So these would be the kinds of hands-on activities that we could develop that could be distributed through community partnerships and would be linked to the curriculum. So again, flexibility. If teachers want to kind of integrate it into what they're doing in classrooms, that's possible, but they also stand on their own and can help make learning more exciting and fun at home during this blended learning period. So that's just a little bit about that. Thank you. Back to Han now.
And this is just a small example of what the kit could look like. The bottom two pictures we had actually used in a kit that went out for our summer pilot program to the students. But just as a quick summary, this team concepts and some kind of guide sheet that tells them what the main concept is that they're learning, along with a scientific method worksheet and very easily accessible materials to make some of these kits. And the barcode idea is something that would come in handy for later as these kits get distributed. For students who have access to internet, they can just scan their barcode on their mobile devices to find more information online related to that or additional resources. And there would be some kind of a checking back mechanism enabled through the barcode where a quick survey could be done by the learners, maybe even the parents who are supervising it, and the teachers if they are using it, whether they use it in or outside of their classroom. So that is our main idea. So we'll open it up to questions now. And then we have our Director of Education, Dr. Radhika, with us.
I have a couple of questions, actually. The first one is, my name is Shirley, by the way. How are these kits going to be paid for? Are schools paying for them? Do you have a corporate sponsor or yeah, I guess that's my first question is who's funding the kits?
Very good question. This is, we will be applying for grants and we will be applying for various research grants. There's always a research component to whatever we do to understand what these kids are doing and what the children are actually, what are our expectations and what the children are actually learning. So it will be paid by the grants, but to write a grant, we also need to know who are our partners who will be willing to do this. So that's why we wanted to have an initial brainstorming session with community boards like you, to see whether if you would be interested in this, then we could apply for a grant together and see if we can write your reference in the grant to say that, okay, this is a community board, this is willing to do this, and then we can we'll try out different avenues.
I have more questions, but if somebody else wants to ask a question.
Yeah, hi, my name is Thomas. I have a question. Do you have resources? Because in our district, we have a lot of students that are multi-language learners, formerly known as ESL, as well as a lot of students in District 75. And especially the District 75 students have been hit very hard by the lack of internet connectivity in the district. So do you have resources available for these types of students as well?
Thank you for bringing this up. And it was actually, it's very good that you brought it up, because when we design the kits, this is the input that we require so that we can, make sure that we have, multiple language translations and other things included in the kit. So we will make sure that we have, we've taken note of this comment on multiple languages, and before, in fact, we'll put it in our proposal. And every district, and I think every community is different. So these are the inputs that we require to make our proposal stronger and to make sure that we reach out to the most, to the maximum number of children. So we'll make sure that we will have multiple languages as the script, because along with the kit, there will be a short, instruction slip given. And that instruction slip, if it is in a language that the students are easily able to understand and the families are able to understand, obviously it will be more effective. So we'll make sure that it is in multiple languages before we actually, this is just a concept note, and when we actually operationalize it, we will be speaking to you all much more. We will actually be talking to the school principals and any other partner that you think is very important to get these insights, so that we can integrate all their ideas into the execution of the proposal.
And if I might add, sorry.
Go ahead. Okay, why don't you finish that, and then somebody else has their hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thought to that. We're connected to a youth group called Climate Cardinals that does work to kind of crowdsource translation of climate education materials. And this could be something that they could support with on this project as well.
Okay, Deborah?
Hi, thank you. So I guess this is all great, and I think that the ideas are amazing. I think my question would be, for you, can you outline what a marker of success would be? So this is a very broad program. It's a very ambitious program. It covers multiple aspects of how we work with kids to use the internet, how to engage them in work. But what would success look like for you? Because what I'm seeing is this idea of having kids that get to kids, and that's going to be a thing. How do you get the kids to kids? There's this idea of how do you have translations for kids in multiple languages. There's this, there are a lot of wonderful ideas, but what do you see as like the first measure of success in this program? Because it's so big and so amazing, and we want all of this to happen, but where do you find the moment that says this was successful? What's your first goal?
Right. So we have in our proposal, we've included, or at least brainstormed so far, very basic indicators to very complex indicators. So one of the basic indicators that we have is that are students able, are we reaching out to the number of students that we have proposed, and whatever that number is, let's take that number X. So just the outreach, have we done that or not? Another very basic thing is indicator is, are the students completing the activities? Are they having a lot of challenges? And so we will, have a online maybe completion of activity photograph that the students or parents can take and upload it very easily. Either we'll do it through WhatsApp, or we'll make like a very simple portal where the parents can upload it. So how many pictures of completed activities are we getting? So very simple indicators. And then of course we in our proposal, if we are lucky to have a much more detailed research plan, And if that is funded, we'll do a lot of, complex indicators in terms of socio-emotional learning. We have an array of tools that we look at. So surveys, we can do other, understanding of cognitive learning of students. And so but I feel that for now, I think this round should be very basic, simple, lean and mean indicators to know, have we reached out? This is a pandemic situation. So I feel that very basic things, can be tapped into right now, and have the program in place just to get the intervention going. And then we can build upon it and have various different layers, so that we can make it much more robust and make it much more expanded. Our goal is actually very simple. It's basically to use STEAM as a mechanism to ensure that we do a lot of environmental education, because that's clearly left out and it's very linked to COVID. So our focus is here environmental education with the backbone of using socio-emotional learning. Yeah, so that's, I think, basic bare bones is this. And 2 or 3 indicators which are very simple are just the outreach and uploading of the photos, and some indication of whether the students are having trouble with the kit itself. That's about it. And but then we can of course build huge compendium of tools that we can add on with the research component. But just to try out things, doing a small pilot is where we are right now.
And just to add one more indicator, when we were talking more about more extensive indicators, one thing that we had discussed as a team is also the satisfaction level among parents as well, because really this pandemic has a huge burden, of course, on the learners, but on the parents in the home. Moderating and facilitating the online has been huge. So are parents also seeing that the amount of time and the activities that the learners are using on these kits and on the contents that is part of the kits, is that useful, or do they find that also useful? So parent satisfaction also is one indicator that we would like to include.
If nothing else, I feel that, if someone gives a kit to my child who's occupied not watching TV and using this kit at home, that will be a big success. So, very simply put, speaking like a mother and not like a researcher, I feel that, someone gives her something to do which engages her to do something which is non-TV and non-straining to the parents, that is a big success for all. So given where we are, of course, it needs to expand to much more other things, and getting conscious about the environment and bringing all the environmental education part is something which can be easily integrated with very non-expensive kits.
Does anyone have any other questions?
I have another question. So obviously you're aligning it to the NGSS standards. Have you thought about in New York City, since there's a core curriculum for K-8 for science, have you thought about partnering with Amplify or FOSS to make a more seamless curriculum? Because what I've noticed with my children in school is that either the teacher is cobbling together a bunch of great activities, or it's sort of this seamless transition from one activity to another. And I'm just wondering if you've thought about that, making a partnership with one of those core curriculum organizations that the DOE is already invested in.
Yes, actually a very good question. And we are currently in discussions with a lot of people, including the sustainability board at the school, at NYC schools. There are also other superintendents, and we are just trying to understand what the challenges are. How can we get integrated into this? What are the gaps that currently exist? So yes, we've started the discussion, but if you have any inputs on that, definitely let us know. I think we are open to all ideas right now. But the school superintendents in East Harlem district is very involved and very interested in getting this started. So that's one good sign that they saw that, yes, this is filling in some gap. They actually want to use this as like a weekend activity that the teachers can discuss on Friday, and how it is linked to the curriculum. The curriculum is already put in place. So how this activity is linked to that to the module that they are doing, and then giving the students this activity over the weekend, coming back on Monday and discussing it again is how they are wanting to integrate. But yes, we are still in discussions, very preliminary discussions on curricular standards and how do we integrate there.
And you said you had a pilot in the there was a pilot in the summer at a school in Harlem.
So that one was through a youth hub that is run out of New York Presbyterian. The module was a little bit different. It was on public health and community education. But for that one, it was youth between the ages of 15 and 25 who were trying these kits, and then kind of as a training of trainers, using it with their younger siblings who are kind of in that K through 8 age range, and giving us a little bit of feedback on which activities worked, what they liked about it. So yeah, it was a small pilot with 15 youth.
Okay, great. Any questions here? I don't see any hands raised. Yeah, so I know what we're saying that, we have, the students, the ones that are most in need are, the English language learners, the District 75 students. This area is the area that it's deemed to have a low, what is it called, internet a participation rate. Like people, there is broadband, but people aren't on it for different reasons. It's not affordable, or we live in a NYCHA building, it just everything doesn't work. And then the other thing we have, when we're talking about the neediest, are the students in temporary housing. So they could be in a shelter, or they could be in doubled housing. So they live with multiple families in the same house. So I think that it would be great if they could benefit from this, but then there needs to be some more support built in for them as well. Like you can't just give them these kits necessarily, because the parents might not, be there to help them with the kids. Does anyone have anything else to say, or is that correct what I'm saying? Committee members?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, go ahead. Go ahead, Thomas.
No, I was gonna say the kit is a very helpful tool, and I agree it does help with the focus. But a lot of it too, if you're gonna have a WhatsApp or a different kind of platform that they can use, if we can partner, if you can find a partner who'd be willing to expand some of the internet connectivity, that'd be a very powerful tool that could lead to the other results that we want to see with the environment and otherwise. So, giving them access along with it, it would be wonderful. I know that's a huge thing to ask, but it is a pressing need, and it's not going to leave anytime soon.
Right, and you are actually on target. We are speaking to Verizon to see if they can give us some extra bandwidth or other things. But again, I have presented to various different team members in Verizon, and so I'm waiting to hear back to see they like the idea, and they want to go ahead with it. It's just the geographic location, and plus we also aren't very sure what the geographic location should be. It depends on the interest in the community, it depends on the need. So I think there's a lot of combination that will have to come together. So yes, we are in discussions with Verizon, and hopefully they should be coming up with a solution to this thing very soon.
Deborah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just had one more question. So in terms of in terms of the implementation of what your ideal is, how are you connecting directly with teachers or directly with educators? Are you in partnership with, I know that there are specific schools that you may have reached out to, but in terms of scaling it up, can you talk a little bit about how you've reached out to educators beyond like the small communities that you've contacted with?
Right. So we have actually reached out to there is a sustainability department within the New York City school system. And they have, we've had this discussion with them and they seem to be open. But I think personally, I feel that it needs to be much more of a community-led, parent-led thing, because right now the school system is overloaded with new things and new changes. To get one more thing to them, I feel that they might just be too overwhelmed, or it might just be very student teacher specific. One or two teachers I spoke to, in East Harlem, they were fantastic. They were already doing it and they thought that, okay, this is a great way to expand. But others are all dealing with, all the grade threes have to do everything together. So it requires so much of coordination and hybrid and online and in present and lot of different combinations currently going on, Deborah. So right now I feel that if we can, build this in through wherever the children are or wherever the parents are congregating, even at grocery stores, if they can just pick this kit up, it would be a good model to test out to see whether this kit can go with very little instruction and then see what comes out of it. And then the second level probably could be getting the teachers involved. But I hear you, because it has to be integrated into the curriculum, it has to be integrated into the standards, and it has to do, other things are there. We realize that the environmental aspect is neglected or is teacher dependent. So how do we actually bring in the environment? Because it's not just teaching math, just doing mathematics, it's also teaching environment topic through through the subject of mathematics. So we are trying to do a lot, but I think let's focus on what we can do reasonably without straining too much of anyone's time, because we can do, there are so many different combinations that we have here. But I feel that, simple model with the communities involved, with students first, children at home, and then with few teachers who are interested, who can just give us feedback. We don't even know whether the kids will be, useful or not at this stage. We have this idea. Let's try the idea out with the short proposal or something that we can, try to get, some funding for, and then see if it is useful for children. Let's get their feedback. If it is useful, then we can say, okay, this is something of importance. Maybe out of 10 kids, 5 kids will be useful, 5 kids will not be that, interesting. So we have a lot to try here, but we need all the feedback from you all, right? You're asking the right questions to see where we can go with this.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Deborah.
Yeah, it's it's a lot of wonderful ideas. And right now, school has started, and it's a mess. It's a mess right now, right? And there's a new change every day for the teachers. So they're just going this way and that way. I'm sure for those of you who are teachers, so it's a little, I guess, I don't know about you guys, the other committee members, but we're having, I guess, a little difficulty. You want to recommend schools, like, which one? I don't know. I know that some schools, just because they're more well-equipped, will be able to take in more kits and more resources and more information. So student teachers are sometimes overwhelmed with resources, as well. So there's too many resources to choose from. But then we have others where there's a need. Other schools, like Thomas's school, for example, where there's greater need.
Mm-hmm. So we can.
There's also here, we also have, so some of us, our parents or, are connected with a school. I don't know if you guys have ideas. I personally teach in adult ed, so it's a whole different thing. And I personally also know more about the older English language learner schools, but that's, yet another thing. I mean, the English language learner schools for older students, the 16 to 21 age group. Have you talked to the CEC here? School District 1?
No.
Oh, okay.
Our original idea was actually through grocery stores and churches and, through other places where people are, and through New York Presbyterian, like the hospitals. when we had originally discussed this idea. But then we actually spoke to a lot of school districts and East Harlem, as well as the sustainability administrator office, and they became very interested. So we were actually leaving out the schools, but then they thought that, oh, why not schools? We can distribute it in our schools on Fridays, and there will be more context, and students can do this at home, and we can come back. So it became more integrated into. But some have given a positive response. Some have said that, okay, we need to see the standards, we need to do this, we need to do that. So we are doing it parallelly. But I think we need to have a multi-pronged approach, communities as well as students, as well as teachers, and then and the Board of Education.
I mean, well, there are the food pantries. There's certainly a lot of food pantries here. And, Vision Urbana is one of the largest ones. And there's also food pantries in the Chinese community as well. And there are community organizations that are running after school programs, for youth. So it may be a little bit easier to, start there, start with their programming, since, the school programming seems to be,
Right.
I don't know, it seems to be I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah, I think those are some very brilliant ideas. Food pantry, wherever, people are there, and it doesn't require too much. It's mainly like, I don't know if you guys have seen here in Melbourne, in New Jersey, if you go to the library, there are all these activity kits in brown bags. You can just pick up that activity kit, bring it to your, home. You don't have to do anything with it, post it, not, you just do the activity with your child. It's a very similar concept. So if we can keep these brown bags somewhere, but there needs to be some reaction in terms of uploading the photos and telling us whether it worked or not worked, so something like that. But it can be done easily through community organizations, or neighborhood groups that are active, even volunteers who are doing neighborhood cleaning or other things, place them somewhere.
Susan?
Yeah, I was thinking, how about family shelters? And, along with, particularly organizations like Henry Street that both run family shelters and after-school programs, I would think be a good contact.
Okay, great. So, yeah, we do have a list of the organizations that run that. So, Susan, you're saying we could pass it on to them, right?
Sure, I'd be happy to pass on some of the after-school organizations and family shelter.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, committee members?
May, sorry, one thought also, what about the public libraries? I know the one here, Seward Park, runs a terrific after-school program with several children. I mean, not right now in public, but in person, but they do run a lot of programs for the youth in the community and classes. I think that will be a great resource. I know the librarian there is terrific. She's very hands-on.
Okay, so Larissa, maybe you can.
I could definitely pass on your slide presentation to the librarian and let her know about your program.
That's
happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we'll follow up with that. And we like to, please keep us updated about, how the program goes.
That's great. And then maybe for writing, for grant writing, other things, if we can, maybe we'll require one paragraph or, whatever you feel that is important from your side to include the community organizations that are being referred to here. I think it will basically give a house to where this project will be based. So I think any input from your end in terms of which community organizations will be helpful where we could do this, what are their names, any connections. Will make our proposal, enriched in terms of the context.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, we're often, we're sometimes asked to support, various proposals for projects. And so the only thing is just to think about the timing. So so the timing is very, you gotta think months in advance sometimes. So Susan, how much time? 3 months, 2 months?
Well, think of it we schedule the agenda items in the middle of the preceding month. So in order for us to support a grant, it has to be posted on the agenda. So if I could know in the beginning of 1 month for the following month, that would guarantee that we could get it on the agenda.
Great. This is very
And it never hurts to do it earlier. It's never too early.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, great. Okay, so well, thank you for coming. We'll follow up with those the organizations, and and if you have any proposals, again, contact the office, contact Susan, in terms of the grant proposals.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we will we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the CAB reports. You're welcome to stay, but you're welcome to go as well. I know you want to, have the rest of your night free. CAB reports, CEC reports.
Yep, I have one. I did attend the Gouverneur CAB. This is our first CAB meeting with our newly installed officers. One of our biggest items has been, let me get my notes up, sorry. One of our biggest items has been our question about outreach to the community, especially in NYCHA surrounding Gouverneur, regarding testing for COVID. We did get a follow-up from Dr. Gagliardi regarding his outreach. They are on Google search as an available test site, and the Google search also links to their MyChart, which is phenomenal because they can immediately go into MyChart and look literally 24 to 48 hours after getting the test administered to find out their results, which is wonderful. They also list on the Google search the hours of operation, and they have a map with directions to get there to the testing site. They have also distributed over 3,000 flyers in the NYCHA buildings. And they've also reached out to all the electeds offices. They said they reached out to 8 electeds offices to give them the information. I'm putting them in touch with Henry Street, who does food pantry outreach, and they will be adding their flyers to the food delivery bags. We also received an update on the tests. For example, they gave us 1 week, which they tested 1,353 people. Only 12 turned up positive. For the last 4 weeks, they have had 0 positive tests for staff. And let's see. And now also regarding the COVID testing tent, the current location is going to be moved to make way for construction of the ambulatory center. We also got an update on their annual visits. The hospital is on track with the number of patients visiting the facilities per year. It is not dropping due to COVID, which is great, which means that people are getting care. They're not postponing care during the pandemic and making sure they take care of themselves. There was also a ribbon cutting for the mural in Judson. Dr. Gagliardi was very pleased, said Susan said the artist had done a wonderful job capturing all the different faces of our community. And if anyone gets a chance, please stop by and see it. It is a really nice mural. And we also had questions regarding the flu shot. Right now, there are concerns that they may run short on vaccines, so they are reserving those for community members who are over the age of 65 and for staff. And there's also a program, they're also working right now to put together a plan to deal with patients who come in with a combination of both flu and COVID. So that action plan is being put together right now. As far as a potential vaccine, there is a plan in place to store and distribute a vaccine should that become available. They are going to distribute it first to healthcare workers and then those with comorbidities, and then it would cascade on down to the community. They are working on upgrading their electric system to support the freezers needed to store the vaccine and the distribution. Let's see, what else? And as far as the nursing home members, they are working very hard to make sure that all the members stay engaged. They're very concerned with the isolation of members due to limitations of in-person visits. And they have been working with their physical therapy and the recreational therapy to develop small group activities and to get them out of their rooms and into small groups whenever possible. And that is about it. Any questions?
Yeah, it does not look like it.
Great. Very good meeting.
Okay, great. Are there any reports from the CEC, Community Education Council?
The CEC2 meeting is next week on the 10th. So I'm planning to go to that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
CEC 1 is the 17th, so I hope to go to that one as well.
Okay, great. All right. And no other CAB meetings? I know I haven't been to any. All right, so we're almost at the end of the meeting, and I just, one more thing, since, this is a very short meeting, as I mentioned in the email, I thought we could, spend some time, if people have ideas for future agenda items.
Do we want to look at the Ethics Crossing School?
Essex Crossing School. We still have to talk about getting more time. We never had that meeting yet.
Schedule that.
So we said the letter was sent out. So right before the shutdown, we sent out the letter, or we sent out the letter maybe in January or so, right after we passed the resolution, that we wanted to ask for more time for the space, for the land. But we haven't followed up in terms of having a meeting. Susan, I think what was the idea that we could try to get someone to help with us with that? I mean,
Who did you want to have the meeting with? Was it state elected officials?
oh no, it was with the Essex Crossing
With
about,
the Essex Crossing people themselves? Is it Delancey Associates?
well, maybe we can talk about who is the best person to have the meeting with.
Yeah, I think we need to find that out because, I think the property now is with Delancey Associates, but I'm really not sure of the city and, the interconnection of city involvement and Delancey Associates.
Okay.
I am in touch. I have someone from Delancey Associates actually coming to my district service next week. Maybe I could ask her to, to investigate who at Delancey Associates we could speak to. Start there.
That's a question.
Okay.
That's a question.
To
Who's
ask,
that?
to say, who do we speak to about, extending saving the land for us? Extending the time on saving the, holding the land for school.
May I ask a question?
Deborah?
Yeah. I guess I know that over time we've talked about this a lot and there've been conversations. I guess I'm not clear on the actual timeline. Is there a timeline that says I know that we're running against a clock or the sand's running out of an hourglass. What is the deadline? What are we looking at in terms of the deadline itself?
It was 23 or 24.
That's probably in our district needs statement. I
Yeah,
think.
it's in there. It's 10 years from when it started. So it's probably 2023 or 2024. Yeah, we just have to look it up. So it's coming soon. Does that answer your question?
I was just going to say thank you.
Eric, does that answer your question, or was there anything else you had to say?
Yeah, that also there's that community group, and for the life of me, oh goodness, the whole the whole Mount Sinai, Rivington House. There's that whole group that we're supposed to keep accountable. Oh man, somebody help me. Anyway, I just wanted to follow up with them on that, what their plans are. That they're
Are
supposed
we
to
still talking about the school, or are we talking about something else?
No, Rivington House.
I got another idea. I'm sorry, another agenda item.
Yeah.
Okay, you just changed the subject, right?
Well, apologies. I thought we were
Mount Sinai group. So that's a report that you could give me.
Okay, so you're talking about that Mount Sinai Beth Israel Task Force. Yeah, so they had a meeting a few weeks ago. It had not met since the shutdown. It was like the first time ever. It was on Zoom. So it was the elected officials there. We were there. Somebody from CB6 was there, and the Beth Israel, their team. It's Dr. Bowl and the two Brads. Sabrina and somebody else. Oh, the doctor from the psychiatry department. So they said that they are re-looking at everything, that the pandemic has told them that from the pandemic, from the whole situation, they learned that they need to they are rethinking their whole plan, about the downsizing, about moving, everything is up for discussion again. So they're having internal discussions first. They didn't, say like they hadn't come to a decision about it. But so that's more around the downsizing. They found out they need more beds, and then more beds are needed, at the very least. So in terms of the Rivington House, they are still going ahead with it. The only thing is that the opening will be delayed because of the construction has been delayed, because during the shutdown there was no construction. So I think originally it was supposed to open in 2021, so it'll be a year later, they said. And then there was an issue with this clinic on 25th Street that they they said they would have to close it because it had been audited and there was a fine. It was a way that it was about Medicaid, and they felt the audit was very unfair. It was just a couple of mistakes, and it's something that happens often, and they're trying to fight it. But the result is they'll have to close that clinic. It's on 25th Street and 2nd Avenue, so it's not in our area. But there are.
I think it's a methadone clinic.
It's a methadone clinic, right? So it was had to do with state audits.
Question?
Yes, Deborah. So that's it. So they said they didn't have a lot more information and would come back to us soon. Not like next week, but they wouldn't be waiting too long either. Go ahead, Deborah.
Sorry,
No.
You finish and then I'll ask my question.
Oh, so someone asked if it would mean that the certificate of need would need to be like redone or resubmitted, and they're like, who knows?
Okay, so my question is are these changes publicly, are they announcing these changes, or is it only changes that are being discussed in meetings? Like, how do people know that the impact of COVID on what they were planning to do in terms of downsizing is changing? And I know you can't publish things because you're in the process of having these conversations, but like, I guess I'm a little confused if things are changing in a way that impacts what the expectation is for care in the community. I'm wondering what their plan is for letting people know what's shifting.
I think they still need to do that. But they're just like letting us know something is coming.
Something is coming.
So yeah, right. So I think that we can follow up. I mean, some minutes were sent out, but we can follow up. There's no future meeting schedule, but we need to follow up about how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to folks in the community to know if there's a possibility that things are shifting.
Yeah, no, I think they should know. But the general at the meeting, consensus was, well, we're glad you're seeing it this way, because before they weren't.
And when was this meeting? Just out of curiosity.
It was in March. No, not March.
2 or 3 weeks.
I'll look at my calendar. Was it October? I found out. I found out about the day before.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just.
It was very recent.
For information to be asked at when they're ready to share the information of any changes that may be coming, positive or negative, as it impacts the community and community care. It would be great to know.
Yeah, no, I agree
how they're
with you.
planning to share that information with the community, because I know that a big part of what was happening with them was the idea that they needed to be transparent and open with the community. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, May?
Yes.
Also, same vein but Rivington House focus. What we need to know what's going on, any updates, or if there's any more information on finding an appropriate building for a nursing home in the community.
Well, as I said, they said that, it's going to go ahead and accept the construction. I mean, the opening is being delayed because of the construction. And I'm sorry, his name just escapes me, but he was at one of the meetings. He's the doctor who's the head of the psychiatry department. He'll be the one who's like leading, sort of heading up the hospital.
Clarification, please.
Do you remember him? I'm sorry, his name escapes me, but he was at the meeting, the one that was at Union Settlement. Remember? I mean, University Settlement.
Yeah, no, I guess my clarification is for Larissa's question.
Yeah, no, I think I'm talking about actually a new nursing home, not a mental health facility, but.
Are you changing the subject?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so let's let's not jump from subject to subject. Let's just finish this one.
Okay.
Susan, did you raise your hand?
Oh, I was just going to address what Larissa's addressing.
Okay, are we done with this? Any more questions about Mount Sinai Beth Israel? All right, Susan?
So I was just going to say, I think what Larissa may be referring to is the meetings we were having with Margaret Shin
Yes.
about the possibility we were looking, what's the name of it? I'm trying to think of the name of the nursing home and I blocked it out. The one that was at Rivington, Allure. So
Allure Group
there were
and-
conversations with Allure, particularly with the Attorney General. Maybe what we need is an update from the Attorney General, because has COVID put a pause on their timeline, to spend the money and, and give back to the community?
Yes, that was the group.
I also
Okay.
would love to know, I know that there were questions about whether Allure was going to be able to do something at Confucius Plaza. So I know that COVID has upended everything in life, but it hasn't changed the fact that, there were things that were supposed to happen. And I understand that Allure Group was dealing with a bunch of other things in terms of what their responsibility was in care of patients and how that looked with COVID in the nursing homes that they already have. But what does that mean in terms of their timeline of making right for this other piece? So I get that we have to allow them to fix the stuff that needs to be fixed in terms of the care of patients related to COVID and dealing with that. But how does that impact the timeline in terms of what they were supposed to do by law?
So I think that's a question we can go back to the Attorney General with.
Okay, so that is a to-do. Follow up with the Attorney General on Rivington, on the nursing home.
I guess the question is in terms of the settlement, what does it mean in terms of the settlement and what they're required to do?
Oh, yeah, yes. Okay. So we will contact the Attorney General, right, Susan?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And we'll get back to everyone about this. Okay, so anything else? We also, I'm going to change the subject again. So we will also need to, remember before the shutdown, we said we were going, this is about education. We said we would do an event with CEC1 regarding students with special needs. It was like a parent resource fair. So maybe we should just follow up and see where we want to go with that. Do we want to wait till everything is back to normal when we can do it in person, or is there something else we want to do? Oh, so Tatiana, could you ask them that when you go to the meeting?
Yeah, I can ask. I thought we said last month that we decided on doing it at a later month. I'm not remembering right now what month, but I remember last month we did discuss maybe doing a similar event later.
Well, no, someone just suggested maybe in the spring.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
But I think there's, a lot of, I thought we'd be back to in-person meetings by now. So,
yeah.
So there's a lot to ask and think about.
Yeah, I'll ask them what they think and what they think of the needs for like a partnership event. Maybe there's
yeah. Because these Zoom meetings are nice, but they're very limited as well.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we need to follow up or talk about? Oh, Susan, the homeless partnership provider idea.
Sure, I can just let people know about a conversation I had with Eric Rosenbaum. He's the CEO of Project Renewal, which in our community board runs the 3rd Street Men's Shelter and Kenton Hall. And we were talking both about how the community gets involved with the shelter. They're the ones with the our residents going into the Hotel Lucerne on the Upper West Side. All the commotion is about our 3rd Street residents. And they're now working with some really great community groups there. And he's been actually very inspired about that and talking about opportunities when they move back, which could probably be anytime from February through late spring. And he's very interested in being much more engaged with the surrounding community in programs. Years ago, the shelter, I think, was more engaged with the community. That's kind of fallen out recently. So, I said I would bring that to the board. I thought people would be interested. We really don't know what that looks like, but, and it looks like they will be coming back into the shelter. Possibly we could have them come to the committee and have people bring ideas on how to interact. I think it might go, even though the community, it's mostly Cooper Square residents around there, have been generally very supportive. There also have been issues, and I think it would be very helpful in sort of getting rid of the us and them tensions. I don't know if there's any thoughts about that or any ideas. Is it something that people think they would want to pursue?
I think it would be worth pursuing. This is Larissa.
Okay. And was there something about
I'm sorry.
Heidi, did you have something to say?
Yes, I was just typing. Yeah, I was just saying that I do think it's a good idea. I think it's good to do those types of things before, before an issue explodes into the communities. That relationship building, kind of destigmatizing, humanizing, all of that stuff.
Okay, and May, did you want me to also mention about the networking of agencies together?
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so another idea that came up, and this is something Gail Brewer tried to implement on the Upper West Side because of the move into the hotel, was to get all the providers working with homeless in any connection, whether it be shelter, street homeless, other service providers, substance abuse, to have all them create a network for the community and be able to possibly coordinate care information, which is always difficult because of confidentiality, but more can be done than is being done. So that's another possibility. Gail said she would be happy to try and help us down here if we were interested in trying to help facilitate something like that. I spoke about it to the supervisor at Goddard Riverside, which is in charge of the street homeless outreach down here. And she said she would try and think of what that would look like, and also speak to people at Goddard who had been involved with it on the Upper West Side, because I don't even know what at this point what the agenda would be. It's it's basically a networking of the professionals working with that population. So it's something to pursue. They're going to come back, both Gail's office and Goddard, I think, will come back with thoughts about it, if it's something that our board would like to help facilitate, if it seems like a productive thing.
Okay, any questions about that? All right. Any other agenda items to suggest?
Yeah, May, I had an educational concern.
Mhm.
We were given a lot of assurances before the start of the school year that there would be random testing of up to 20% of the persons in the buildings. It has not been done in District 75. And we were the first ones that were pushed into the buildings for in-person instruction. I was just tested randomly for the first time yesterday. And it's just not, it's not equitable. Students in other zones, obviously,
Oh, he's frozen.
Superintendent Lewis on. And, you know, I sat in a meeting with them last week, and it just was, there hasn't been a plan. They're making a plan in November to address the needs of District 75 kids in terms of random testing. So I don't know if the other schools are having those issues, but it seems pretty rampant in our district.
What do you think we can do? Is it just somebody we can advocate with or talk to, or?
Well, I mean, maybe when Tatiana speaks with the CEC to find out what's the parents' view on the random testing of their kids, because it hasn't been done.
Yeah, I can ask about that.
Okay. Yeah, if there's any kind of like action we should take, or position we should take, or a letter we should write, or, you know, we should put it on the agenda pretty soon, like next month. So, but it is good to find out what the parents think too. So that meeting is
That meeting
in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's the 17th, but I could also reach out to Naomi before then and ask her if she knows anything about that. I'm sure she does.
Okay. So Thomas, you're saying it's a problem, particularly with the District 75 schools.
Yeah, we were like, the students haven't been tested. And, you know, we're a lot smaller than most other schools. But the way I put it to somebody, I said, well, you know, are the students in Stuyvesant more important than the kids in our district? You know, they need to know if the kids are testing positive too. So, you know, they don't have an answer for us as of yet in terms of D75.
Oh, okay. Anyone else about this D75 issue?
Yeah. Could I ask, is there any kind of parents association or anything comparable to a CEC for the District 75?
No, we work with the CEC. So, I mean, you know, we actually had somebody come through about a week ago, did a walkthrough of our school, because they feel it's very well run in terms of signage and how we manage the students. But the testing, you know, some of the staff is a little leery because it's only been teachers that were tested yesterday. It should have been done since September.
But there's no parents group for the...
No, just other than a PTA, there's not a specific group assigned to it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there was any special advocacy or, networking around, that district.
I can ask, if there's anybody specific, because we haven't, we've pretty much advocated for ourselves for many, many years,
Yeah. I assume you would know if there was a parents group, you'd
Yeah.
probably know about it.
Okay. All right, so if there are no other things to talk about in terms of the future agenda, we can start adjourning the meeting.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a future item, but this was just in from Department for the Aging. They've begun what's known as a Friendly Voices program. And it's a program that matches seniors with volunteers so that they can get in touch with each other on a weekly basis to kind of cap off the social isolation situation.
Oh, okay. Did you want to say more, or do you thinking we should have a presentation about it? Or are you just letting us know about it?
Well, to let you know, because again, I just got the email today. I would certainly like to know more about it. Being that within at least our community board area, we do have a large amount of seniors who live alone.
Oh, so you just heard about this program, but you don't know how the seniors are going to access it?
Right, or where the volunteers are coming from.
Is this run by DIFTA?
Yes, DIFTA along with the, I believe it's the Thrive NYC program.
So does DIFTA plan? Oh.
Oh.
Does DIFTA?
Yeah.
Does
Where I'm
DIFTA
coming
plan
from?
to? Go ahead, Susan. Why don't you talk first?
I'm just groaning. Minute you say thrive, you know, it's like, well, that's going to be, I won't say anything. Could always contact someone at DIFTA to see if they want to, if you want me to pursue that, to see if they want to give any kind of presentation.
Sure. Our next meeting is December the 3rd.
Okay.
You know, in terms of timing.
All right, Susan, if you want, I can forward you the email.
That would be great. So I'll have the right information. Thank you.
You're
We
welcome.
one of our former reps that used to work for Deborah Glick and has been moving around is now, I think, head of external affairs at DIFTA. So for the future, we'll have much better contact and representation there.
Okay, great. So I think we've covered just about everything. And can we have someone make a motion to adjourn the meeting, and then we're also going to take the attendance?
May I make the motion that we adjourn?
I'll second.
Okay, and we will take the attendance.
Okay. So May,
Here, yes.
Larissa,
Yes.
David. I know David is there. Eric,
Yes.
Shirley,
Yes.
Deborah.
Yes.
Okay, Tatiana,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Heidi,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
and Carmen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the meeting is adjourned. Full board, the next committee meeting is Thursday, December the 3rd. And full board is coming a couple of weeks in October.
November.
November. So good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, see you at full board.
See you guys at full board. Have a great one. Stay safe, everyone.
Hey, I'm here, by the way.
Yeah, we
Whoever was
counted you.
speaking.
We
Okay,
counted
sorry,
you.
my computer